It may seem a small thing, but one of the most infuriating things I read today was this, that anti-Semitic incidents and abuse from injecting room users towards staff of this taxpayer-funded organisation, Victorian Gambling and Casino Control Commission, had forced them to go to another office, forced them out of Richmond. I mean, can you believe it? Apparently the staff, here we have this commission, is using taxpayers' money to move staff away from a taxpayer-funded injecting room because the junkies using it make them feel unsafe. Plus, of course, there's too many Jew-hating posters as well, being a left-wing suburb. What do you expect? So they're off. Now, the thing is, right next to this same facility, this drug injecting one, is a government school. Plus a lot of houses in the neighbourhood of locals. None of them get government help to move away. They get stuck with this. The local school gets stuck with being right next door to this injecting place. The children have to put up with junkies, but the public servants who can't cope with it, they're allowed to leave for another suburb. This is another example of something that really gives me the pip. Governments using taxpayer money to fix the problems they themselves have caused with their crazy schemes, but fix them only for a chosen few. Like, you know, fixing for a few the higher power prices they cause with their green power, fixing for the few the traffic jams and soaring house prices they cause for everyone with mass immigration. Joining me is Brad Battin, Victoria's opposition leader. Brad Battin, thank you so much for your time. The public servants get moved out of this danger, but the local residents and the children, they don't. What does that tell you?
That tells me this government doesn't care about the students and cares more about their employment workforce. And I think it's a really big risk to that school. And the government to come out now and say that they have put measures in place. I think they said they've spent $14 million on security measures. We said at the very start they shouldn't have spent the $14 million. They just should not have located this centre next to a school. And the evidence is now in. They're moving a government department.
Well, exactly. If that 40 million was so effective, why move the authority there? Isn't this an admission that these injecting rooms that so often get misnamed safe injecting rooms, there's another one in Sydney as well, they're not safe at all, or at least not for government staff?
Yeah, I think, Andrew, you couldn't get it more right. If you've got government staff having to move because the amount of complaints they've put in, the issues around safety, and I imagine there'd be work safe notices. There'd be a whole range of reasons they've put forward they don't feel safe walking to and from their workplace. Yet you actually say, can we send a primary school student to walk past there? And I know when I grew up, and Andrew, I'm sure it's the same for you, I would be encouraged to walk to school by myself. It's a great way to learn independence, not in prep, but maybe in grade 5 and 6. They've created a community here where that's just not safe, and it's been proven by sending the government workforce away, but saying it's okay for these kids to walk there. It's a scary precedent, and the government need to come out and explain to those schools why they're ignoring the calls from the school community to not relocate this facility and keep it away from their kids so they can be safe whilst they go to and from school.
What would you do about it?
We've said openly in relation to the injecting room that if you're going to have injecting rooms here in Victoria, they need to be in a health setting, not currently where they're putting them right next to schools. Whilst we've said before what we want to do with the injecting rooms, they're there now, the trial's been done, but you have to have a health setting around it where people who do go in to use these facilities can get the other options to get them off the drugs. At the end of the day, the focus should be how do we reduce the use of drugs here in Victoria, not how do we use a harm minimisation method that gives them the ability to do it legally. So I think there needs to be some changes in how we approach this going forward, and we'll have more to say on it. We'll continue those discussions with not just organisations but internally as well. And I know Emma Keeley is our Shadow Minister for Mental Health and Georgie Crozier as our Shadow Minister for Health will be working very closely with us to ensure our policy going to the next election is primary focused around community safety, particularly around those schools, because it shouldn't be there. That would be our priority.
One other thing, Brad Battin, what does it say about Victoria that it is now often singled out as an example to other states what not to do? I mean, just today, the Australian energy producers pointed out the price that Victoria is now paying for effectively banning new gas production for nearly a decade and still banning fracking for gas. Here she is.
We need to get more gas into the market faster. There's no better example of this. If we look at Victoria, where the shortfalls are concentrated, this is a state that has demonised gas, that's banned exploration and development of its own gas resources. It's been so effective in preventing gas investment that soon Victorians are likely to be relying on more expensive imported LNG to keep the lights on.
So, Brad Battin, you've got Victoria as being a basket case, a laughing stock, a lesson to others what not to do. What would you do to save Victoria from running out of gas and electricity?
Yeah, the highlight there was we're the worst for budget, we're the worst for crime, we're the worst for community safety, we're not protecting kids at schools, and now obviously it's gas as well in our energy supply going forward. We've already said we'll ensure that we open up and have the exploratory licences so we can find that gas and get it into market. My biggest concern is because this government is delaying it for so long that there may end up a gap in the market of being able to find the gas and then getting the technology in place to get it into market. So we're saying to the government, you should be acting on it now. However, if they don't, we will. And if we're elected in November next year, I assure every person in Victoria you'll have a clear difference between a Labor government trying to stop you using gas supply at home and a Liberal government who will be very focused on ensuring we're protecting that gas supply, not just for you, but also for the businesses and to keep jobs here in the state.
So, as some other political leader recently said, drill, baby, drill. Well, that could only be to the benefit of Victoria and the rest of the country. Brad Battin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.